Okay, and hello and welcome each and every one of you to another episode of Living in the Flow. And here we are broadcasting live with Tanya in a daytime for Tanya. It's evening here for me. And so good evening to each and every one of you that is connecting live or that will be watching live later. That will be watching later. You're also very, very much present. Over to you, Tanya.
Hello and welcome, and thank you very much, Alexis, for setting this whole thing up for us. And thank you to everyone who is right here in Zoom, and of course, everyone else who is not in Zoom but watching live for this wonderful theme today, love. That elusive theme.
Mm.
That's why we chose it.
Yes, I know we bring up all these words that people so use and overuse, but they only become real when you feel it. And so also we would like to share some, whatever news that we have. So the other week I had all of these kind of waves happen when things with creativity, how it works for me, it comes with waves. And so, of course, as sometimes I don't sleep a whole night and I get all these ideas. And this time I got up and wrote them down so I could remember the next day. And so some new courses have been born, and I've changed some names of things like the live membership group is now called Gateway because I thought that was more appropriate. Well, as we change, names change as well. So if you want to check out Gateway, you get a 10-day free, 11 days free if you want to check it out. And then there's another course coming up with Saint Germain in a couple of weeks time. It's a 2-hour glow of freedom. So that will be very interesting. Saint Germain loves to talk about freedom and sovereignty. Those are his themes. And then with Michael, I'm very excited. A couple of new classes are starting. So in January, it will be Warrior of the New Era. And when I got this title from him, I got goosebumps because, as you know, the spiritual family of Michael was all about warriors. And now we're kind of like peaceful warriors. So all of that has changed a lot. And yet for many of us, we miss that feeling of that warrior, that nobleness and all of those kind of things that are connected. But it is very much, you can be a warrior very much in this era without having any battles. And then another 3-month journey with Michael as well. And it's called Magi Live Here. And for those that are aware, that use the word consciousness in relation to energy, it's going to be exploration of consciousness and relating to energy and how it relates to energy. And I know that a lot of people are very interested in that because this is like the next level where we dive deeper into finding out, now that for many of us, we have embodied our soul, we are connected to our soul to different degrees. And now we really can explore how consciousness relates to energy. And this is very new for all of us, for those that have realized themselves and for those that perhaps are still, on their way. But we don't know, and our non-physical friends also don't know how it's all going to work out, how that is working out. And this is why we're here also to find out each for ourselves experientially what that means, how it all relates, how we are the creators that choose, and then the energy responds appropriately. So it's very exciting. Please check out my website. I'm also be changing quite a few things on the website, making it easier. And also as there's more material all the time, it can be hard to find. So I'm going to try and go and see if I can make it simpler so you can find things easier. All right, over to you, Tanya.
Yay! Wonderful. And I love your sun kisses, your daily sharing that you've been sharing for the last 30, well,
Oh,
which is for 30 days, but we're on day 21 right now. So It has been so,
Oh.
so beautiful. Congratulations. It's really a lovely, lovely flow. And each day it is so precious and special.
Well, thank you for this
Uh,
because there's a little story behind it. Because, I've been trying to write a book because, I know how many books you already have, and congratulations and all of those. And for me, I've been trying
Thank
to
you.
write, but it didn't happen. And now I realize it was my human self thought, oh, we have to do the book. And now this with Sun Kisses, all of a sudden I realized the book is here, it's writing itself. So this will be a book as well. So there you go. It's a nice and beautiful, easy flow in this new energy. And that's a
Yeah, and
demonstration.
many times the books actually are already here and we haven't
Mm,
noticed. So, for instance, some of my books are exactly that, like the
mm,
soul songs. The soul songs is actually very in tuned into your sun kisses because
mm,
it's sharing daily how to perceive a different way. So, what is the
mm,
invitation of the soul, and how would it then how the day changes from there? And some of my books are also compilations of
mm,
texts and also some chronicles that I've written about different journeys, different experiences. And so they really are there, but we haven't noticed many times. And in my case, I just have to take some time out to
mm,
get some more of them together because I've always got new
mm,
books ready to come. So
mm,
it's just so to anyone who has that wish or that will or that want to express in writing, please notice what you've already written and what's coming through every day,
mm,
because that is your book. I mean, that is what
mm,
you already have within you. And regarding my creations, now there is the how do you call it? Oh, the names go away. The Enlightening Showers of Presence 3-month journey is coming to the end. So now we're going to have a pause and it will restart in either in January or February. And I have my random compassionate breath sessions, which are always an
mm,
exquisite and personal experience because it comes through for the people who are present in that moment and with them, actually, because it is a co creation of our pooled soul energy that brings that consciousness forth. And of course, it depends then. We can go as far, as deep, and as profound as the ones that are present there will allow. So it's always a beautiful experience. And now we have a surprise actually for everyone, and that surprise is regarding our Living in the Flow new Energy Waltz, which comes a week later. But I think we can give you that surprise maybe further on. So we have a beautiful surprise that I'm sure you will enjoy. And for me, these last weeks have been interesting because
mm,
there has been a crescendo of energy,
mm,
and I've been having a lot of individual sessions because I do
mm,
the what I call isness mentoring, isness integration, which is really just becoming one with our essence and gradually allowing that to collapse. And it's a very, very intimate kind of approach because I basically just dive into whatever the person is living and provide that space of silence and peace
mm,
and clarity where one can reach their own clarity.
mm,
And lately there have been a lot of solicitations for that support. And interestingly enough, I started feeling tired. So I just said, I've got to clear my schedule for a few days here and just wipe it out completely and have no work with
mm,
anyone, no timetables, nothing. Because what I felt that has built up in these last weeks is really even more opening and a frequency shift.
mm,
And so basically I've collapsed into even more compassion, into even more freedom, into even more peace, as if
Mm,
it's like, gosh, how is that even possible? But yes, it just keeps
mm,
on expanding. And so as soon as I decided I'm gonna wipe out my schedule for the whole week, the tiredness went away.
mm,
So it's not that I've already
mm,
started those
mm,
days of recess, of just being in my own blissful
mm,
space
mm,
without any really major
mm,
interactions at all. It's just having made the decision and taken the
mm,
action to clean off my schedule for a whole week,
mm,
provided a completely different space for this transition that has been happening in my physical body. Actually, I feel it becoming more
mm.
liquid, so to
Yeah.
speak. Less
Mm,
it's less tangible in the sense that stuff can't attach to it so
mm,
easily. And but the thing was fantastic, and that's why I'm sharing
mm,
this. Like, as soon as I made the decision and
mm,
took the action of canceling the sessions I had and rescheduling and that, boom,
mm,
I started feeling less tired and less tired, and now
mm,
I'm fine again. Yet I'm still gonna have the week
mm.
off.
Yes,
Obviously,
exactly. Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
that's the whole
Mm,
purpose. And so within our theme today, this fits in so well
mm,
because it's really this. It's you we cannot love anyone else,
mm,
really. There is only us to love. And from that there is everyone else. So,
mm,
and if we aren't if we aren't aware of that, that the only one we can really love is our own isness, our own human divine connection, our own wholeness, then everything just gets out of balance, and basically there's nothing else to love, because we are all of that, and all of that which we perceive, and every single one in our life is that. So it's really taking that step back and, yes, this is love.
mm. And it starts and starts and continues also in making these kind of
All the time.
decisions, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
to make that decisions when you are tired, to take that time off. This is a beautiful example to what you explained, because as soon as you decide, it's kind of like if you feel in the old days when I felt cold and then I decided, okay, I'm going to go to a doctor, straight away you start feeling better, isn't it? And yes, for me too, the last 2 weeks, the frequencies have changed so much. And I've been able to, like you mentioned, to do with the body. There were certain things like ancestral things that I was able to just really perceive as energy. I was able to perceive how body really is energy, and any disease that we may take on or that we may perhaps carry in our DNA can be felt as energy, and energy can be let go of, can be allowed to go into neutral. I was able to realize how the experience of, let's say, some pain or something like that really has to do just with it being energy. And as you let it go, it's so easy to let go of, all of these things that, as a human, as a humanness, as a human being, we feel like, wow, this is some kind of serious thing, or you have to go through some kind of journey to heal it, blah blah blah. In these frequencies now, it is no longer needed. And also, those kind of old ways are no longer needed, because we have access to all these incredible tools that we never had access before. Because there many times people say, oh, but why are certain things keep coming back? Or I know that it's possible, I know something is possible, and yet I still keep dragging this thing along with me. But this has to also do with this being patient, to allow the sacred unfoldment of everything, because it's like, we have given ourselves a certain path as a soul, and within that we have to complete all of the experiences that were kind of intended, for us to have, so that we can transform. And so again, that thing comes to mind, is like, we just have to trust and enjoy our life the way it is now. And at the same time, yes, allow all the visions, allow all the imaginations and everything to also be there, but not try to kind of reach out of our now moment into that, to try and pull it in before it's ready, because there are so many things within us that need to come to maturity before we can really then continue with that journey, or allow that ability or those abilities to become real in ourselves. And if for anyone, if anyone needs a proof of that, they can perhaps have a look at work in mental health departments in any country, because mental health area is full of people that don't have maturity, and perhaps they hear voices, or they hear all of these things because they can hear aspects and all of that, but it's actually driving them crazy because they don't have maturity to be able to deal with that. And so again, it's just that we come back into ourselves, into that now moment, accepting all that is in our lives, and everything, all the riches, all the magical experience, they come to us, as we are ready, because our soul is very aware of where the humanness is and what the humanness need. And this is that part of the self-loving, or the loving of the soul towards the human, because the humanness can sometimes be impatient, but the soul knows what is best for us as a whole. And so this self-love is a continual exploration, because from a perhaps less mature place, a certain situation looks one way, and then when you actually mature, then you realize just how much love, how much acceptance, how much respect was involved in that journey, and how much just absolutely everything is touched by the soul, is not controlled, is not the right word, but there's this continual interaction, and everything is at the right time, if we give it a chance, and not give ourselves the hard time. So we just keep loving, and we just keep loving, and we just keep loving. And so at the moment the times are so incredible, because the energies are so fine, and they're like it's like, sometimes for some people it can feel like as if you jump into a pool of water and perhaps you never learn how to swim, and all of a sudden you're a little bit out of balance. And some people have been feeling maybe a bit nauseous or something, because as this frequency changes, we kind of have to find a balance within this new frequency, and how to navigate. And all of a sudden we start then to feel and realize all these new abilities that we now have, because all of us, they're not always up straight away apparent, because remember, because we still are in the physical, so physical does work on time, so we do give ourselves that gift of time and space within which we can then experience, which we can have that experience of that new journey, so to speak. Over to you, Tanya.
Yeah, I'd like to expand on that, on the concept of maturity, and also something I've been sharing about, which is the walls of dissociation related to that immaturity. So, really, in a very simple sense, for me, the perception of maturity is really just allowing the human self, allowing itself to fall into grace. Into grace, what does that mean? basically allowing soul, allowing essence, allowing the wisdom that is profoundly present all the time, that knowingness that is there, to take the lead. And if we allow, if we are able to just let go of the attachment to what we are perceiving to be hard, what we are perceiving to be confusing, what we are perceiving to be unacceptable, whatever, let go, just for as long, it just needs an instant, just for as long as it takes to take a deep breath and boom, collapse into that space of knowingness where maturity lives. Because maturity for the human mind might mean one thing, but the maturity we are sharing about here is something completely different, and it actually includes innocence.
Mm.
And it is such a level of innocence that it is purely accepting of all things. But it is not the innocence of a child. And here resides the big, big difference. It's an innocence that resides within compassion. And compassion is so widely loving that then that which seems unacceptable, that which seems too hard, that which seems resistant, whatever, is no longer where we are holding on to, because then the grace becomes so tangible, so palpable, and so this is all I really want and need, that the children, the ones that are immature and speaking all of those voices and feeling fear and terror and rage and all of those things, those children can finally find a responsible adult whom they can trust, which is you, which is each one of us. And even if we are not an adult, even if it's a teenager, we're talking about someone younger watching this sharing here, the soul is mature beyond chronological number, beyond age. So when I speak about the child here, I'm also referring to that part that at any given moment felt helpless, hopeless, powerless, and couldn't deal with whatever situation was at hand, and therefore remained, how can I say, reserved and preserved in a space that sooner or later starts becoming too small, too confined, as we grow into that maturity, that allowing of our essence to be the provider of all things. And when we allow that, then we realize, oh, wait a minute, I am not that one that is feeling distraught. I am not that one that is helpless, or that is screaming or feeling pain or shame or guilt. I'm not that one now, in this now moment. This is all I am, this grace. And that grace can then start dissolving that wall of dissociation from the inside towards the place, the cavern, the prison, the whatever, the different spaces that are kept locked in time and space, dissolving that wall so that child, those children, those young ones can come and trickle
Mm.
inevitably into that space where the mature one, where the
Mhm.
one that has come of age, not chronologically, but in wisdom, can embrace and hold and really, really acknowledge the service that these parts have
Mhm.
been created for, and finally say, I am so thankful to you for what you have provided, and now you can rest.
Mm.
And then that merging of yet one more part of yet one more pocket of energy and
Mm,
consciousness that was kept for whenever we would be ready to receive it, can come and merge, and the human then becomes less and less tangible per se, less divided
mm,
and more one. And this is the profoundest, most infinite love
mm,
there is. And there, in allowing this, every other human is lovable, because then we can see the aspects, we can see beyond the walls, and we can see where each one is coming from, and we don't need to stand in judgment
mm,
and in rejection, and we can stand in our sovereignty and realize, wow, what an amazing creation this experience called Earth has
mm,
been
mm.
and continues to be.
Mm, yeah, yeah, that's beautifully. It touched my heart. Like I could feel my heart being touched. It's like a beautiful harmony as you were speaking. But
Thank you.
this imagery that you've provided is just beautiful in how and how you can find yourself. Like I can relate to what you were saying, because those caves and caverns that you spoke about and the rooms, that's how I perceive it also. And many times and oftentimes I also like experienced like this the word soul or divinity, whatever the word that you call, actually imbuing those parts, like in a sense, in
Mm,
the same sense as, like, let's say when you see a dry earth and it's all crackled and it hasn't seen the rain, the life-giving rain, for maybe decades and decades, and then all of a sudden the rain, that water slowly seeps through, and initially it's very difficult for the water to
mm,
seep through. And that's how it feels like for me too. It was some parts that they've never known love. They've never known acceptance. So many parts, whether it's parts of myself, from those aspects that I created throughout the lifetime. And also because we are these designated SND in this lifetime, people that are attracted to these circles. It's all those past or parallel lives that come, so a lot of the times it really isn't these humans that you say, where I don't remember experiencing that, and
yeah.
it matters not. And then of course it comes all the humanities experiences that too come, as we talked about one time, that too, once they find a transformer, a living walking transformer,
Mm,
they will keep coming to you. And very often people like us, initially when you don't realize, you say, wow, why is this coming? I've dealt with this. It's coming because it's releasing from earth, from humanity, from mass consciousness,
mm,
and you know how to do it. And that's why we are also here. So
yeah.
in all of these things, that's why it's so important to always just remember to counteract that with love, with self-acceptance and self-love as much as you can. So many oftentimes when people or some situations push our buttons, we get thrown into this more darker place or perhaps angry place. And then that's fine. You're just okay with that. Be okay with that. And then just as soon as you can, let's say perhaps you calm down or you breathe, remember love, feel it, allow it. And perhaps initially you can't, but as you're doing that over and over, it becomes a habit and it becomes easier. And you perhaps succeed starting with smaller things. And then all of a sudden you realize that those big things that used to trigger you all of a sudden don't look that big. You see, it's very, very has to do with all these daily experiences, because it's our lives that is a raw material for all of these experiences. So it's not like that something else is going to happen, but all of your things that have followed you, that have been in your life all your life, all of a sudden become manageable. They no longer start pressing your button as you keep choosing love. And sometimes it can be a little bit tedious also, because you think, oh, bloody hell. So, again, it is here. And you just keep choosing love and know that all of us are in that space or have been in that space. And then they just become smaller and smaller. And sometimes then, of course, again, you perhaps get more of these kind of things, because all of a sudden you know how to transform, and more things will come. But they do become easier. And parallel to that, you also always have these amazing experiences. So it's like, we are multidimensional. We have all sorts of experiences with this, and you always just keep choosing love, and you keep choosing love, and you keep choosing love. And then finally that compassion comes for ourselves and also for another person. And very oftentimes also these parts of ourselves that didn't know love, it's like, I often also look at it as if you were to pick up a stray puppy that perhaps was abused, a little
Yeah.
puppy. And you can look how it would be at first. That would be scared, and then you just keep loving and keep having patience. And that's how some parts of ourselves are. They do need that time and that patience, then to just keep loving. And then it just becomes a way of being, this self-loving. Because as you are keep loving, because then you're making such different choices, such different energetic choices, that perhaps for you on a day-to-day basis don't look huge, but energetically they are huge. And before you know it, even if that particular thing still pushes your buttons, all of a sudden you notice that, because you've been mastering or alchemizing with love, all of a sudden all these other parts of your life just work, and they're peaceful and loving. And even if there's still this one thing that is pushing your button, matters not, it will resolve sooner or later. But it's not gone to waste. You keep choosing love. It means that it just spreads all over. It spreads into your body, and all of a sudden perhaps you start feeling more energetic. You perhaps make more loving choices with your body, and you go for walks instead of making different kind of choices. So, or perhaps some people that dealing with certain addictions and things like that, you don't have to battle any of these things. For any, even the most serious things in your life, they are the antidote, if we can call it that, is always love, and acceptance and compassion. And that is what will resolve it. And you don't have to fight anything. Like, if you were doing something that you think you shouldn't, go and enjoy it instead of beating yourself up, and see how that changes, you see. So that we, like that warrior, we've become quite a very different kind of warrior now. It's not a warrior that battles, it's a warrior that is noble and accepts and holds its head high. Because compassion and acceptance is the biggest thing ever, this unconditional love. There is no bigger thing in the known universe. There isn't anything that is bigger. And these kind of transformations, when you can transform a part that before didn't know love, and all of a sudden they know love, and all of a sudden they become loving, those kind of things are such incredible miracles. And very oftentimes the only witness to that is you and your soul. And like Tanya also mentioned before, like that human part becomes much less defined. So that's why very often now I call it humanness rather than a human, because it can't, for me, it kind of human is no longer the human. I don't feel myself human, rather I feel my humanness. So sometimes I am more in my humanness, and sometimes I'm less, because that humanness is like a scent, is like a beautiful human smell rather than a structure of hard being human. So I can feel myself being in humanness because it's a feeling and a sense. It's a sensual experience of being humanness rather than this. Because when I say human, it feels like that structured, which doesn't exist, because that kind of border between that soul and humanness doesn't exist anymore. We use these words in these kind of settings a lot, but for me, in my everyday, when I go about my everyday experience, I don't even use those words. But sometimes there is a contemplation, because it's like, oh wow, if I read something, like Tanya mentioned how much we've written, so if I read something from like 5 years ago, and then it transports me to that feeling, I say, wow, how different I am now, you see. So it is good to kind of play. I like to explore and play and do all these self experiments on myself, so yeah, it's just really beautiful experience. And yeah, but it's not easy for anyone, and especially in this kind of climate again, because as we shifted again into this high frequency, people that are not open to this are having even harder time. So I don't know whether I mentioned before, I do some community work, and I do work with mental health, like in that department. And the last 2 days has been incredibly hard for people, incredibly hard, and they have no solutions but more medication and stuff. And so that's why it's so important that each one of us, that we be in our mastery, because then we can be who we are, and we can show potentials as our radiance touches other people. We show potentials to other people. They can see many more potentials and perhaps make different kind of choices for themselves as well. Over to you, Tanya.
Yeah, that is exactly it. And I love your expression, humanness.
Yeah, humanness.
Love it,
Yeah,
love it,
yeah,
love
yeah.
it. Right. So there's several things I'd like to share on that about the different experiences from other timelines. Basically, when we really allow ourselves to stay in that grace of essence, in that mastery, in that sovereignty, the timelines start collapsing and collapsing, because the only place where we can really experience this unconditional, unbounded, infinite love is now, is in each now moment. So that is why when eventually any one of you might be going through challenges, emotional challenges, or things like that, and if you are going from cave to cave and trying to find the solution for each part and so on, and so they're on the other side of the loving space that you truly are, it's really quite impossible to find any solution, because it is the emotional self, it is the one that is tied into the judgments and into the pain and suffering, that is trying to fix things, trying to save these parts from their suffering, but never managing, because there is no compassion when we
Mm.
are not in our wholeness, in our divine self. So um, as Alexis was so wisely sharing, it isn't an effort. It doesn't really require any effort at all. It is quite on the contrary, a letting go of an effort, so that the whole system can collapse gradually, gently, with a lot of patience. But it's just as if we were sitting quietly, peacefully, in that serene, safe space of isness, where the human is no longer separate from the divine, and just stays there, warming, warming. So, keeping that fire, always rekindling it, keeping it warm, so it can thaw the ice of separation, because really those places, those dark recesses are cold and forlorn. There are places where, as Alexis was sharing, there is no love. There are lots of parts of us who had never known love. And so there's no way we can convince them of something called love. There is just no point. So trying to go about fixing aspects simply does not work. They don't need any fixing. And just staying in that rekindling of the fire, all just keeping it warm, is the now moment, is remaining in the now moment. And as we are in that presence, in that constant presence of our sovereign self, constantly there, and then gradually collapse and become one with it, and there is no here and there are no walls anymore, there is no separation. Our very presence provides that wherever we go. We don't even need to be doing anything or saying anything. It just happens. And I was sharing with Alexis this last weekend, I went to a place for lunch, and it was really delicious. But the owner of this place had opened somewhere in summer, and these last 2 or 3 months it was already closed during the week and only open in the weekend. So I'd gone there several times during the weekend, found it closed, and was wondering, why is it closed? Then managed to go there last weekend on the weekend. And this man, he looked tired. He looked like he was making an effort. It was not already that joyful passion to have that open. The food was delicious. Anyway, this week's on Friday, I went by, because there's always also a shop with lots of delicious croissants and baguettes and
Oh, wow.
French delicatessen, which are So I went by, say I'd like to book a table for tomorrow, Saturday, to come, and the lady there said, "Oh no, it's not gonna open anymore." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" So just by being there, basically this man felt somehow compelled to listen to himself and stop making that effort and just close the place down and think about what he really wants. And this is just a small example of we don't know, and we don't need to know. Sometimes we become aware of, but we don't know the influence we have wherever we go when we are profoundly in love. And staying profoundly in love is so warm, so inviting, so welcoming. It's such a blissful place to be within, that there is no enchantment in going anywhere else. It's like, give me this any day. Oh, there is no other
Yeah.
place. And this has such a power. As you were sharing, Alexis, this is the warrior. This is the new warrior, is this power that is so vast that it shatters the walls of illusion wherever we are, whatever we're doing, because it's coming from that space of love, of complete self respect, of complete acknowledgement. And when you're in that space, there is no sort of even a thought of lack of self confidence or anything like that. It's just completely not there.
It makes no sense in that space.
Exactly.
So many things
Exactly.
are absolutely senseless. They make
Yeah.
they make no reasoning. They just
They don't
make,
exist.
they don't exist. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And so being that, wherever you are, you're like an atomic bomb, literally.
Of love.
That is the new warrior.
Atomic bomb of
Exactly.
love. That's it. Yes.
There you are.
Yes.
So and that love oh gosh, it produces such beautiful effects.
Mm,
It's, of course, it will create a lot of change and sometimes
mm,
havoc in people's lives that
mm,
needs to be created, but it's their
mm.
experience. I mean, and that's why I call myself a changeologist, a
Oh,
conscious
wow. I
explorer.
love that. Changeologist. Yes.
Yeah, conscious explorer of the science of change. And
Mm.
I am my experiment.
That's the same. Me too. That's why I call myself scientist of a new energy, because I am my own
Yeah,
explorer. I test everything. I try
yeah.
everything. I go deep into experiences, and a lot of people don't go as deep, and there's not need to.
No,
But I just
yeah,
go fully into it. All of the
me
and
too.
see it all, and
We're this
that's right.
intrepid
Yeah,
grace,
yeah,
intrepid grace.
exactly. This is what our dear friend Tobias, for those of you that know Tobias, he said that many, many years ago when he explained the teachers of the new era. Teachers of a new era is a person that goes deeply into something new and then comes back and is able to explain it. And
Yeah.
I just love that, because when first Mikhail told me, "Oh, you're going to be the teacher of a new era," I said, "No, I hate teaching. I hate teachers. I don't." The last thing, my God, it took him few years to get me to start teaching, because I was really not into teaching at all. But because I saw it from the old way, you see, and this is that
Yeah.
humans have saw it from the old way, but this new way, it's not even that we have to call ourselves teacher. I don't particularly call myself teacher,
Yeah.
but
Me
it is
neither.
just like you do this, you're a scientist of this new energy, and that's what it means.
Yeah.
You go deeply, and you go, let's say each individual goes deeply into different things,
Yeah,
and
in
then we come
different
and
ways.
share. Yeah, yeah. And
It's
so,
amazing, isn't it? Because we
yeah,
have
yeah,
such different landscapes, different kind of
yeah,
experience, but we do experience the essence of all of
that's
these
right.
things in a very similar way. So
That's right. Yeah.
in the end, when you squeeze out the
The wisdom, the wisdom. Yeah,
yeah,
the juice.
boils down into the same
Yes,
exquisite concoction of
yes.
deliciousness, really.
And you can totally, and you can absolutely recognize what another person is describing, even
Yeah.
if their experience was within the different context. You can understand it and you can feel it, because you start feeling what other people's you're feeling the energy of it rather than words also. So in many ways we are such unique, not just you and I, all each person such
Yes,
unique.
each one.
Yeah, and that is quite an astounding that we can even understand each other. But at the same
Yeah.
time, the essences, these Jews, is just so understandable on soul
Mm.
level, that you just know you don't have to even describe it. And with these parts, I was gonna mention, because when you were talking about something, for when we do integrations, all of these big things, when we are allowing the waters of love to water, to give life, for it
Mm.
feels like, for me it felt like resurrection. I really felt,
Mm.
I all of these words that I used to just read about, or that were
Yeah.
religious, I actually lived them. So, absolution, I lived what that means. These words become real. And it has to
Yeah.
also do with all these parts. For example, when you're a child, like, for example, if you were to feel, okay, power and powerlessness, when you're integrating those parts, and like there may be some powerlessness is so incredibly tough to feel, is so
Yeah.
uncomfortable, because it's so full of fear also, because you really are power, like, as if someone has a complete control of you. You have no power over the situation. And so that part that felt that experienced that, especially in childhood, when you are the most powerless, really, we couldn't we in childhood we weren't mature enough to feel that. So most people feel it once you become, even even in people who have to wait until they're like 40 or 50 to start feeling, to integrate some of
Yeah.
this. I mean, young people are different now, but for those that have few decades, you're not mature enough to even feel that kind of intensity of feeling powerless, that feeling.
Yeah.
And this is not like how a lot of people sort of have this idea that, okay, so you're sitting there and you're feeling powerless and then that's integrated. It doesn't actually happen like that. Like
No.
for me, it happened that I normally there were a few years when I would wake up at 3 o'clock at night around that time. Not anymore, but for a few years, and then oh yes, some integrations are happening, and the soul self I could feel was very present, and then I would just, okay, let's go for it. And sometimes when I kind of knew, my humanness knew that it was going to be something very uncomfortable, I could procrastinate it, put it off and put it off for a while, but then it just got more uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
so just I'm just saying this to say to each and everyone that we all go through these things. There's no perfecty type of thing. And then what would happen is that that's quite that incredible experience, that it's like you get visited by this child self. And in childhood there are many selves, there isn't just one. But for example, let's say this self that was holding powerlessness, that experienced powerlessness, and you asked it unconsciously, you hold it, you stay in my
Yeah.
unconsciousness until I am ready to feel that. And there's many parts. This is when we integrate these incredibly beautiful parts, because these parts are the most courageous parts. You see, parts that we accept, they're easy to accept, they don't have as much courage and as much honor as these parts that
Yeah.
we before turned away, because they were so honorable to hold this until we are ready. And so then I would feel it as it's as if this whole being, as if this being that was a child, alive and vibrant, came into me, became me, flowed through me, but not just my humanness self, but with the soul present. The soul has to be present for this kind of transmutation, because
Integration.
because human can't do on their own. So I would feel the soul, breathe it, feel myself, feel the presence, and then these parts, allow these parts. So you create the space, and then these parts come, and it's kind of like this, not a ghost, but like a real being flows through you, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden you're, for a few seconds or milliseconds, I completely identified with it. You are that being, and you feel that intensity of powerlessness, and then that means it's integrated because you own it. And it's very
Yeah.
quick, can be uncomfortable, but uncomfortable is just those few seconds before you actually feel it. Because when you actually feel it, you feel this amazing being that you were as a child, and this powerlessness. And that was like a full-on real experience for that part. Is not just some kind of wishy-washy thing, it's a full-on experience. And so that then flows through, and then you let it go, and it's like it's being freed. And it is
Yes.
such a sacred experience, and can't be described really, because it has to be experienced. And then that part is no longer in your unconsciousness. That
Mm-hmm.
part is then free to be, and you let it then have, you let it go. Because as a creator, we create a lot of different parts of ourselves, and we give them freedom. We don't keep them in the dungeons of,
Yeah.
of hell. So it's quite these kind of transmutations and transformations. And I can't remember the right word, because there is even more of a sacred word for those kind of experience. They really are incredibly sacred to experience.
Yeah. And for me also, as these parts dissolved, um, I always felt a gift, the gift of
Yes,
the juice,
yes.
the juice of that experience. And then when
Mm,
that part no longer exists because it's completely merged and dissolved
mm,
into who we are, bringing its gift, because it was holding a gift for us.
Mm,
It didn't seem to be a gift, but it was.
mm,
Then less and less of the distraction of separation is there, and so it's
mm,
easier and easier to integrate. And some of these children actually uh, pretend to be monsters,
mm,
and because they have become, they have been the ones who have carried more of the burdens, and so
mm,
we just kept on putting stuff on them, and all of the blame and the shame and the guilt and the
mm,
powerlessness, and then they become super enraged and
mm,
seem to be like a huge monster. But then when you can sit with the monster, because it's you, so I mean there's no point trying to turn your back on the monster, it's just you. And
mm,
you sit there, and you're not buying into the fear, you're not buying into all of those words that are being thrown at you, because sometimes this monster, it comes with all sorts of
mm,
insults
mm,
and trying to make you feel bad, and so you're just sitting there, and it's okay, and it's just coming, and as these things, they come towards you, they sort of dissolve, like you're a
mm,
superhero, and you've got this superpower, that whatever this monster is throwing at you, it just dissolves as it comes into your field,
mm, mm,
because it's the field of beingness. And then the monster starts losing power, and losing power, and all of a sudden you see this child,
mm,
and that child there, my God, it's been so preciously useful. I mean, how could it carry
mm,
such amount of burdens all at once? It's incredible.
mm,
And then, as this child starts becoming softer and
mm,
gentler, and then you see, oh wow, then there's all of the beauty
mm,
of that innocence, of that joy that the child
mm,
had to shut down and
mhm.
zip up and pretend
And
not
kill
to
off.
be,
Yeah, and kill off.
and kill off
And
and
that's
really
why,
become numb.
yeah, and that's why it feels like that resurrection, because you are
Yeah,
bringing, literally bringing this
exactly.
parts back to life, and it feels like that,
Exactly.
and that's where also, like, I always felt the presence of Yeshua, because he knows
Yeah, me
about that
too.
resurrection, and then I knew what it meant, like, at Easter, when he resurrected,
Mm-hmm.
and this happens inside over and over again
Over and
with
over
these
and over and
parts.
over.
And these parts, like, you can see when you can really feel them, you can see their vulnerability and woundedness. They're so incredibly
Yes.
wounded by our rejection, and by having to feel those kind of pains of, because those energies are very painful to carry, like rejections and all of
Yes.
that, and they carry that. And you see the incredible service. They served you so perfectly, so beautifully, so strongly, with such courage, this kind of parts that were in the darkness, that before you tried to move away or project it on other people. and
Mm.
and so once you that huge change that happens then also is, for example, let's say with power and powerlessness, when you actually get the juice, the wisdom of it, all of a sudden that shift happens with regards to that thing. So all of a sudden you realize the energy of power and powerlessness. You can really see how it is two sides of the same coin, and then they
Yeah.
integrate, and then power and powerlessness no longer exist for you.
Neither one nor
Yeah,
the other.
nor the other. They're gone. That game is then finished. And then that means that you've actually transmuted it completely. So you can then still, because you have that humanness, and you can still plug into the mass consciousness, you can recognize it because you have experience from before, but you no longer even get pulled into those kind of games. And those people that play in that powerlessness are no longer attracted to you. They don't see you. You are completely uninteresting to them. So they're not going to try to come and poke
Invisible.
you. That's right. They don't find you interesting, because there is nothing within you to hook. So they feel that they can't hook you, whatever, because
Yeah.
nothing they can say or do, or they can't insult you, whatever words they could find to read out to insult you doesn't do anything to you, because even if they did that, like, because, but the better thing is that you're completely then out of those games, and those kind of games disappear from your life.
Yeah.
Like, you can see them in other people, or like, let's say if you interact with people, they may talk about it and you can then
Mm-hmm.
feel it and know it because you know it from the past. But all of a sudden, all of these type of power games are gone, you know. And this is the effect of this kind of thing, where the integration is actually real, because you
Yeah.
see the duality. That's what duality is, there's two sides of the coin, that battle between, it's the same energy, and one side battles the other, it's that opposition.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we transmute duality. You know, and then we are in this oneness, or what, you know, in a completely different kind of energetic game, that we
Yeah.
didn't even see it before. And all of a sudden, then of course comes a new, that's the new beginning then, always, because then all of a sudden you have to then find, like we mentioned before, it's like you jump into the water and all of a sudden you have to start to learn how to swim, how to find balance in this new way, because we've never done that before. We've never been as a humanness out of duality. So we have to learn how to, you know, operate, and what kind of new talents we have, what kind of new abilities we have outside of that game, because all of that energy has been neutralized. So it's all, it never stops, you know. And all of a sudden then you feel yourself again a beginner, you know, because, and this is the thing that is part of the multidimensionality, because at the same time I can feel this incredible ancient wisdom of the one, of the I am that I am, of my own soul. And at the same time, I'm always, always, always at the total beginning, a newbie, a
Yes.
beginner, a student.
Even when
That's
you're
right.
not integrating anymore,
Yes,
it's the
yes,
same.
always.
It you
Yes,
continue to be a
yes.
newbie.
You continue to be both the newbie and the most
Yeah,
ancient one, all, or,
exactly.
you know. And this is incredibly beautiful, because it's like this interaction and relationship between all these different selves that are one. It's so dynamic, it's so incredibly loving. So it is a relationship, you know. So you keep relating to all these different things, and it keeps evolving, expanding, and keeps bringing more and more wisdom. So then you all of your journeys also collapse, all of those journeys of seeking, of whatever, and these new kind of journeys begin. And it's a much more freer journeys, and also journeys that are much more flexible and fluid, just like you then are now, much more flexible and fluid. But it's not, how can I say, then when you look, or not compare, but when you look at duality, you see, because for a lot of people, or for me too, you think, oh, realization and enlightenment and all of these things, this, it looks so huge, and it looks like the end, but it is just the end of that particular
It's just the
journey.
beginning of
That's
something
right.
new.
And then all of a sudden the world actually becomes much bigger, you see, because people think, oh, then all of a sudden I will know everything. No, not at all, because all of a sudden that journey where we were, it's like that tomb, that, how can I say, that glass dome, you know, we were in a glass dome, and then all of a sudden
Mm,
you come out of this and you think, wow, look, there's a whole universe here. You know, and all of a sudden,
yeah.
so this is how, and there's much more there. All of a sudden you're able to see much more. So it's never the end. Over to you.
Actually, you become comfortable with not knowing
Yes,
because you realize you never know.
that's
And
right.
you never know for a very simple reason because what you know now will not be here in a few minutes anymore because you don't
Mm,
need to hang on to
mm-hmm,
anything. So
mm,
you know now and you let it go. And
mm,
next minute you'll know something else.
mm,
And it's like it's a constant
mm,
knowing and unknowing
mm-hmm,
and go unknowing
mm-hmm,
and in there that's where you realize, oh wait a minute, there's no light and dark, there's no
mm,
love and fear, there's no no separation really. Then you start experiencing
Mm,
this whole reality within something called reunion, within something called
mm,
oneness. And so as
mm,
you're experiencing your oneness, you come to realize things in such a different way
mm,
that they are even hard to convey,
mm,
because it's like you're speaking a completely different
mm,
language. So basically, you can provide that space through your presence, through your
mm,
experience. You can share it, yes, and try put words to it,
mm,
but it's always so new that it's like we're always sort of tiptoeing and finding a way to express things
mm,
that have been presented to
mm,
us right now and that we didn't know before and
mm,
that we're not going to know in a few moments. So
mm,
it's sort of like, oh,
mm.
wow, now this is not boring at all.
No,
So, the
no.
fears of the human mind and the human, small human self, that, oh no, that's too peaceful and that seems too beautiful, and oh my god, that thing Grace
Mm,
is, I mean, that's too gentle and that must be
mm,
so boring.
mm.
Oh no, my god, it's pretty intense
It
and
is.
not boring
It's
at all.
intense. It's more and more you become like that. That's what amazes me, that I become more and more alive always, and then I can
Yes,
see in others more and more aliveness, and also then I can see deadness in others, deadness in the people that
yes,
are not awake, and it can be sad. And I can see aliveness, for example, in animals, how that even before, even though I loved animals before, I couldn't see how incredibly alive they are,
alive.
and present, and it's okay to be in that not knowing, because this defining everything becomes like such a boring chore to have to
Yeah,
define, because there isn't definition, because it's like trying to, let's say you're sitting next to the river. I mean, the river that you're looking at now is different than was 3 seconds ago, because all of those molecules have already flowed past. So
that's it.
it's weird to define, isn't it? Because even though it's still a river, but it will never again be exactly those same molecules, physically, even. So it's the same. You don't bother even defining, because also at the same time, you see, when you were just a human without a separated human, the definition was very important, because it's how you felt safe. You felt safe by knowing things, because your mind thought, okay, if I know this, if I know that, I know the steps to there, so I have to define, yeah, that's a good person, that's a bad person, because that's how you navigated your world to keep yourself safe. You had to know, okay, this is a bad person, I have to stay away. And it was true, because there are in that world bad people that can hurt you. It's not a joke, it's not something
Hmm.
unreal, because physically you can have consequences if you don't know how to. That's why you see none of these kind of, how can I say, self-help and stuff, you can't throw them away really, because it just depends where a person is in their
Exactly.
understanding and journey. So for someone who is just, let's say, becoming aware of certain things, to say, okay, you have to recognize when a person is actually dangerous or toxic or not, you see. So for them, that is very important to
Yeah,
recognize that, because then they can free themselves of the toxic relationships and stuff. But then as you journey on and you come to these different levels, then like you said, when with that compassion, then defining someone as toxic becomes meaningless. And yet at the same time you are there because you see their beauty,
you
but
are
at
aware.
this that's right, but at the same time you are incredibly aware of their feeding pattern, of their toxicity at the same time, because you don't allow, because we still live in this world and we don't allow
Hmm.
anyone to feed on us. So there are levels and levels and layers of these things. Even like, for example, where people say, oh, should someone get vaccinated or someone shouldn't get vaccinated, or should they go to a doctor or not? Well, if that person believes that doctor can help them, then the doctor can help them. You
That
see
will
what
be
I mean?
great.
Then they
Exactly.
have to go.
Exactly.
You can't tell them, oh no, the doctors won't help until they process and learn and integrate and realize, wow, I'm my own self healer. You see,
Yeah.
so you become really discerning, incredibly clear and incredibly discerning to see where a person is, what language you can use with them. And that's why a lot of the times also people can say, oh, this teacher or whatever has contradicted that one, and how can that make sense? Because you have to look at who they're
And but it's not a
speaking to.
contradiction.
That's right. It's not a contradiction. Depends who the audience also is, and what they can,
Yeah.
in what language you can speak to them. So there's just this incredible
It's going
expansion.
beyond
Yes,
for and against. Not
yes,
needing to be for or against,
that's
because
right.
each experience is so unique
Yeah,
that I mean, we can only share this much, but then
that's right.
each one will have to consult with their own
That's
knowingness
right.
what is
Yes,
appropriate for them in that
yes,
moment. Like
that's
even
right. Yeah,
regarding the vaccine, whether
that's
it's
right.
appropriate or not, it depends on the person's life,
That's
what they
right.
need
Yeah,
for their
yeah.
life. Even beyond whether it's healthy or not, that's not the question here. Is okay, if you need it for some reason, for a job, for
Mm,
this, for that, then you can be sovereign enough, even if you feel
mm,
you don't need it physically and health wise, you can be sovereign enough to decide, okay, right, okay, I don't mind taking it and it
mm,
won't harm me at all.
mm,
I mean, because it's not this for and against ever.
mm.
It's just what
No.
works now for
Mm,
you. That's it.
mm-hmm,
I mean, for each one, there is a different story,
mm,
there is a different experience, a
mm-hmm,
different way.
mm-hmm. That's right. And it really depends where that person is. You can transform anything because nothing can harm you when you are in that
Yeah.
space. But for someone who hasn't integrated yet, everything will harm
And who
them.
feels
So
like a victim.
that's right, exactly. So, and these the questions that people are right into, like you said, like you mentioned, are actually the incorrect. They're not precise questions, like you said. So, question is, how do I feel within myself, rather than, oh, if all people get vaccinated or if all people don't get vaccinated. That's just a story, because when you realize and you come from a place of being eternal, being your soul self, then even the questions and issues are actually quite different than what they seem,
Yeah.
on the surface. And also, always, when you come to a certain level, you can see backwards, and I don't mean backwards in less evolved, because when we're all timeless, when you see a human being, even if it perhaps in this moment they're not awakened, you can perceive their realized self, because it's all now anyway. So you can't really even say, oh, this person is somewhere else, but perhaps in this moment, let's say they're not awakened, so they can't see you if you're already
Mm.
realized. They can't see your realization. They perhaps feel that, like you mentioned, you started talking about it before, like they can feel there's something different, but they can't
Mm.
see. It's like their eyes are still closed. I think our
Yeah.
friend Saint Germain was through another channel explaining that. So he explained that so beautifully. Is like when you meet a person with two eyes closed, they can't see you, but you can see them if you even have
Yeah.
one eye open. So when you go more, you become more integrated and more realized, then eventually you have two eyes opened. But the person with only one eye open, they can't see that you have two eyes open, you see, because they haven't
Yes.
experienced your reality. So that's why, like, let's say if you look at Yeshua and all of these people, and all of us, in all of us attending now or watching this later, because in your life you are the realized, the teacher to other people that you meet. So we are using a lot of analogies, They are imperfect, but it's only analogies that you can use to try to explain, because it's only when the person with two eyes closed become one-eyed open that they can see then more than what they couldn't see anything with two eyes closed. And then when another eye opens, they can see even more. But you can't portray, the two-eyed person cannot put, or two-eyed open person cannot portray what they know, except for like in poetry, in analogy, in these kind of things, to the person who has two eyes closed, because they just cannot see and they cannot experience until it becomes real for them. So that's why we always just keep saying it's out of thinking about it. It is, they can, the two-eyed,
It's
that's right.
feeling.
It's
Yeah.
always experiencing. So the difference between the person who has two eyes closed and the person who has both eyes open is just experience, because we've experienced all these things, made it real for ourselves. And the person who has, they're just still thinking about it. Maybe they read every book there is on realization, on enlightenment, on soul, but they haven't really felt it. I mean, that's not entirely correct, because every single person is a soul being, and every single person in their own way, in their own life, they have felt that connection with. There is not one person in the world that hasn't felt, whether when they were a child, they may have forgotten, they may have put it out of their memory, but it's only when you really awaken then you realize, wow, even when I was a child, or even then I was aware, I just didn't want to admit, like I just made it a little bit out of my purview. So it was all there, always the soul was present, it was just a little bit to the side, and now it's just everywhere, you see. So that's the difference. It's like
And this is,
yeah,
oh, sorry.
no,
This is what happens with aspects. It's the same thing. The aspects cannot be taught to see things in a different way. So there's no point trying to open up a school inside to teach the aspects why they should come back home. Yeah, or babysit them and tell them why you have to come back home. No, you have to walk your talk. Stay there in that profound loving space of infinite compassion, and then they will come knocking on your door, because they will feel that and that's just the way it works. Exactly. Inside and outside, it's the same thing. You can't open your aspects awareness. Each aspect is created for a purpose, and that's the only thing it knows, and it's not supposed to know anything else. So and it's the same thing, for each one has created their experience and chosen a path for themselves, and there's no point trying to sort of hammer things in, because it just won't work. I mean, there's nothing to be hammered. It's just be you, be your own magnificent, radiant expression of wholeness in everything you choose to do, and that's it. Nothing else.
That's it. Yeah, it's very simple. Once it is simple, it's all very simple.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's the bar, isn't it? It's like, until it becomes simple, it seems hard. But yeah.
Once it's all simple, then it's all simple and natural and easy and logical and everything. But before, because oh my goodness, I mean, we've really gone deep into this earthly separation experience. There's no doubt about that. We've gone as deep as one can go.
Yes, exactly. It's like, okay, game over. It's enough. Thank you very much. Let's play a
new game. But before that, we've gone as deep as one can go into separation.
I mean, before. It's like we went so deep that at some point we said, oh, maybe this is enough, huh?
Oh dear. Okay, so I think we've come to the end. Do you feel we've come to the end? We've got just to have a look at the questions.
And we can reveal our secret, our surprise.
And we still got a question as well. Oh, it says, hello all, Tanya and Alexis. Love to you from stormy Azores. Love to you.
Thank you very much, Simone. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you for adding your presence here.
Indeed, dear master.
Dear masters, all of you here
All of
present.
us. Yeah.
What an honor.
Yeah, exactly. And we can feel it because, like
Of course.
of all of the things that we can talk about, pretty much we're talking what we bring together, what we co-create together, just give expression to that.
Yeah. So our surprise is regarding our new Energy Waltz next week on Saturday, and it will be at 11 a.m. Portugal time, not 12. Because our time has changed in Europe, but Brisbane remains 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever would like to join us, we have a special Black Friday surprise. So we've put it down to a 50% discount just because we felt like it and for no other reason. So if you'd like to join us, we have this gift for you, this 50% discount for our new Energy Waltz.
And for those that don't know, what we do is it's a Zoom.
Yeah.
It's a private group, maximum 11 people, where we get together like this, except that you are part of the conversation. And then for 2 hours, it's a 2-hour. We have plenty of time to discuss whatever's been raised, whatever's been, whatever you're experiencing, whatever we bring to the table. It is our joint. It's like we're coming for a coffee, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. And calibrating and recalibrating new frequencies within what we've shared here about basically what we've shared today is all about love.
Yeah. And it has to do with, now we've started talking about this coding, like for many of you also are aware that we are coding these new experiences. So all of these experiences that we've had up to now, like what I mentioned, before, that it's no good fighting against what it hasn't run its course yet. It's because of this coding, so now we are coding different kind of experiences for ourselves. Not only that, but we're also learning how to code consciously as a creator, and exploring that connection, interaction, relationship between the I am and the consciousness and the energy.
We have here another comment from Simone. She said, "You covered so well what I have been experiencing. Thank you. It was marvelous to feel and know it all here. We all come home to self." Big hug to you both. Thank you very, very much, Simone.
Thank you.
Feeling your warm hug, and it really feels wonderful. Thank you. And another one to you too.
And so we come to the end. So our recording will be available on Facebook, but each one, Tanya and I both also put it our recording on the YouTube. If you want to rewatch or share with anyone that you perhaps might benefit from it. And subscribe to our things. Subscribe to our newsletters. Thank you for all the support, and thank you for those that have contributed, donated. You know who you are. It is much appreciated. Thank you.
It is. It's received with a lot of joy. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you all.
Until next time.
A warm hug. Thank you.